All right, folks, Logan, let's talk about it. Yes, let's talk about it. So the film opens and already, if you've seen the film, god damn, it's brutal. It sets the stage. And it's wild to go from seeing over the past 2 weeks, for me, Wolverine, he's slashing these guys, but nowhere near the same level. He's like cutting heads off in this film. And it's sort of relieving almost to finally see this character actually get to be who he was always meant to be. He was always meant to be this ruthless guy, and it did feel like they were always holding a part of that back, but I never realized how much it felt like that until you get the actual, what it's supposed to be. And I actually think, I know it took so long. I didn't see this movie when it came out, obviously, or any of these movies. I wasn't really following the X-Men then, but it took so long for it to get an R rating, and it just makes me wonder. I hope that we get more stuff like this in the future. With the MCU, it'll be difficult because they geared towards but for two reasons. One, they like the family-friendly content under Disney. And two, because they have a full chronology that they want everyone to be able to follow along with. And so if you have R ratings for those films, you're restricting certain people from following that chronology, really their main fan base, from following that chronology. And so it doesn't really work. But I do hope they can integrate it somehow. I know that they've confirmed Deadpool 3 will have an R rating. And I hope that, Wolverine, and, they won't do it, obviously. But I think that X-Men in general could really, really benefit from an R rating some time way down the line. I think that would really, really work for them. So, Logan's actually set in the future. It's kind of interesting because it's not like super far in the future, but it's the distant future. So things look similar to us, but there are certain, aspects of it that do feel, sort of in the future, like the cars and, different shapes, different, lighting the cities, different ways that farms work and all that stuff. I'm probably sounding ridiculous if you haven't seen the film, but if you have, you know what I'm talking about. And it's a very depressing future for mutants. It opens up on that. Very depressing. And then watching this film for the first time, I knew Charles was in it, but it really is, there's something so moving about seeing these characters, specifically Charles, but also Logan, in these conditions, because you really have learned to feel for them and want the best for them as characters. And then just to see Charles in this, decrepit mental state, it's horrible. You feel really bad. You have that sympathy. And then, Hugh Jackman. I said it in my Wolverine review, which is up there if you haven't seen it, but Hugh Jackman is fucking incredible. Hugh Jackman absolutely bodies the role. Patrick Stewart as well. They're both great, but they're both of their best performances easily. And I think a lot of that has to do with the heart that's in the heart of this film, the emotional depth that it gives to you. And then on top of this, you have one of the more compelling plots of the entire X-Men series with these companies experimenting on children, turning them into weapons. And I don't think it would have been done justice without an R rating. But again, it works really well here. It sort of borrows from the original X-Men trilogy into commenting on society, but in this time it's allowed to do it in a darker, more brutal way, something the other films could not. So it continues that tradition, and I do think that's a part that the reboots were really missing. They were trying to give you schlocky, fun action, but they weren't really as much a commentary on the state of society, the state of the world, and they didn't really make you reflect as much as I feel they should have, as the X-Men stories should. And then in this film, you have the constant debate between a grizzled Logan who just wants to do the right thing so hard, but he's so emotionally distant because his entire life is tragic, right? He's been cheated, he's lost everything, and you have the debate with Charles, who's always ever hopeful, no matter the circumstances. The man sees the best in people, in the world, and he goes out like that too. And just the Logan and Charles were the central characters from the beginning, and just the relationship between them has really become something special. And then you have while watching this, this is a massive spoiler, by the way, but farm scene, Charles is giving this monologue about how he deserve this, to feel this good, because he remembers some horrible thing he did, and Patrick Stewart is just giving a really emotionally intense performance, and you're really feeling for him. And then he dies, and then it goes wild, and everything is crazy. And, you know, first it's Logan, and we're like, what's going on? If Wolverine just stabs him through the heart, and everyone's freaking out. I guarantee you, everyone who saw this film was freaking out at that moment. How can you not? It was out of nowhere, right? So he stabs him, and you're like, what is this, a dream? This is a dream, right? And Laura goes immediately, stabs him, and then he starts killing the family, and you're like, what the hell? And then you realize that this isn't Wolverine, but it's a different version of Wolverine. And you're like, oh my, what the hell? What the hell happened? It was crazy. And then just that whole scene at the farm was batshit, right? Like, very cool, but, you know, just mind-blowing. Probably the best scene of the film, if I'm being honest. But, all right, and then, you know, you have, for a lot of the rest of the film, you have Wolverine and Laura actually finally meeting all the other kids from the school, and then, you know, the forest showdown, and the smile on my face, I wish someone could have taken a photo of it, when you hear Wolverine scream after he injects all that stuff into his blood, because he's ready to tear up these guys, he's ready to give them vengeance, and you just know the hell that is about to be unleashed. You know, typically in films, I do have a problem when the main character fights, like even in X2, I had this problem, my review of that is up there, when the hero is fighting basically a bad guy version of themselves. And, you know, you do have the same thing here. The villain's X-23, which is also a clone of Wolverine, and he's just younger and better. And typically I am against that, but in this film it sort of serves the purpose of him fighting himself. You know, he needs to get that closure from that violence and rage in his life. And so, you know, I think it does work narratively. I still sort of have a problem with it being the final battle, but I think it does work. And then, of course, you have Logan's tragic, but you really feel while watching it that it is essential. It needed to happen. He got closure. His arc was complete. And he was a character that had to go. And it's an emotional moment. You know, it's a great moment. But he finally did something that Charles always wanted him to do. He found the hope, and he was able to have that connection with Laura the whole time, and finally, you know, do something good, get them to Eden. And he dies, you know, good moment. So I can say that a lot of people said this film would be good. I don't know why, maybe I thought it was different. I wasn't sure if I would like it, or at least as much as I liked the other ones, but I absolutely loved it. To say I was left speechless by it, and I think now's a good time to mention my rating system. If you've seen some of my videos, I have a tier list in it, which means, yes, I do rank them by the letter. So F is the lowest. I haven't given that to any film on this channel yet. I haven't given a D either. It skips E. So you have F, D, C, B, A, and then you have the S tier, which is reserved for my favorite films of all time, some of the best films I've ever seen. And I can say that you think you know where this is going, but I strongly considered giving Logan an S. I do struggle for when it's the first time I watch a film, unless it really deeply moves me. I struggle putting it on S because I feel like, you know, maybe it warrants more watches. There are some films that I've watched one time and just, you know, warranted an S, and this, you know, I thought strongly was one of them. Maybe if I see it again sometime soon, I will move to the S tier, but I am going to put it on the A tier for now. An excellent movie. Maybe it'll be S someday. That remains to be seen. All right, folks, so that's my review of Logan. What a great film, where, you know, I've been missing out on this franchise, but at least some of the films. But Logan is definitely one that deserves a watch. Yeah, I hope, you know, the MCU and other just studios in general look at this one and the success and the reception of it, and use it to make better films. That's my thoughts. I'm EDPC Reviews. If you want to stay in touch, again, I did that in my X-Men Apocalypse video, which should be right up there. That review's up there. But if you want to keep in track with my X-Men reviews, it's about to come to a close, actually. Only 3 more films. The next one is Deadpool 2, which is sort of a controversial one. Will I like it? Will I not? Stay tuned for soon, the Deadpool 2 review. All right, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.